Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's 9:05, so we'll get started. Others will join us as they come along. Thank you for joining us. This is our first EHS, Environment, Health and Safety webinar series that we hope eventually will make weekly. But this is an inaugural one, so I really appreciate all of you joining us. Welcome to all of you and welcome to our star guest, Ranga. We have much to say as we go along. Mr. Ranga, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much for having me.
Excellent. Cool. So we're just going to run a program today. What's a safety meeting without a toolbox talk? So that'll be the first thing that gets presented, and then we'll do a PPE spotlight, and then we'll move into the main session where our star guest, Mr. Ranga, will give us a presentation, or we'll interview him. Are you with us, Ranga?
Yes, I'm with you. Good morning.
Good morning, Ranga. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Do you hear me?
I think I'm having a technical glitch. Hi, Ranga.
Hello. Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Sorry, guys. I think I was... Excellent. I was having a technical glitch. Welcome to the webinar series.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
All right, excellent. So today we're touching on the cost of accidents and how to overcome adversity like a champion. I guess, we've been planning this webinar series for a while, and we had a whole series of activities for our first event that we wanted to undertake. And then 3 weeks ago, I met Mr. Ranga. In fact, he tagged us on Twitter. And then we caught up and we hit it, and there was no fitting guest to have. So thank you for joining us, and I'm sure we're all going to benefit from the story. Just a warning, guys, there are images through the presentations that some may find disturbing, so please exercise viewer discretion. I don't think they're too bad, but you just never know. So, to start off, who is Ranga?
Well, I'm a young man who was unfortunate to bump into an electrical accident, but I come from a family of 3 children, with me being the firstborn, and I happened to be working for the power utility, our local power utility, ZESA, sometime in 2012, and the electrical accident happened. But I am now a recent graduate in computer science and working in IT support. Basically, that's what I do now. I still have a passion for electrical power engineering. I'll definitely find a way of mixing the two. And my passion is in education. So I'm going to be using my coding to develop and improve education. So that's who I am. I was an unlucky fella, but I'm happy to be alive and I'm still going strong.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that introduction. And yes, we are very happy that you're alive and that you're with us. It was such an unfortunate event on the 6th of October, 2012. So take us through what transpired, how your day started, what your plans were, and leading up to the incident taking place.
Okay. My day started very well, like any other normal Saturday. So I passed through my workplace and I wanted to collect something from my locker, engineering places, got their own small locker. I was going home. I was not at work on the day. So when I got to the workplace, I got information that there was a need to do a line patrol. With electrical power lines, sometimes you need to physically walk close to the line, checking for any anomalies. So I informed my controller that I had issues. I had already gotten my off day, but there was a need because we are an essential service provider. I complied and I did the work, took my friends, including, if you see that picture, that was our assistant, Mr. Zepasi, who was very helpful throughout the process. We did what we were supposed to do, and it was unfortunate that sometime in the afternoon, we ran into the accident. So a bit about what was happening. We had, it was in October, you know, there are some rains that come early in October. And if you get lightning onto a line, you can get cracked insulator discs. And these will cause earth faults and the line won't sustain if it's switched on. So if you are doing a line patrol, you are checking for any flash fires, any ceramics close to poles, anything that you would see is not normal. This is what we did. And my friends tell me that later in the day, I decided to stay over and finish off the work because it was a bit late to travel. I don't remember the exact sequence of events because most of them are similar to what happens every day in your everyday life as a worker. So I don't remember. My brain does not tell me exactly what happened, but what I know is there were two lines that were coming from the same source, that is from the same substation, right? And one would produce a tee-off or a branch which would go under the other one. And at this juncture, you go here and another line goes down there. That's where we're trying to cut off some jumpers so that we could supply the main customers and work on the smaller line at our own time. So what went wrong as we were cutting the jumpers, I stood from a box crosser, those who have worked with electricity before, and my back came into contact or too close to a charged line. That is the second line we were not working on. And if you go to the regulations, your feet need to be at least 2.7 meters from the charged line. So if that distance is not met, then you get electrocuted. But I was not electrocuted by holding the actual wires. It was just the charge. Like what Chichaona explained earlier on, that electricity moves in a closed circuit. But with high voltage, it also has a tendency of going around the conductor than through the conductor. So it is this charged field that caused problems. And I'm quite aware that we, in terms of the response, we were 5 of us, including the guy you see in the picture there. The 5 of us, my other 4 colleagues, they made sure that I rushed to Norton Hospital. This happened very close to the hospital. And I clearly remember, you see some of the pictures, I clearly remember asking for water, which they didn't want to give me because of the complications that could arise from there. And on the ambulance trip, I know it was very long and there were a lot of twists and turns in town. And they explained a bit later on that they were trying to admit me in some of the medical institutions until we ended up at Harare Hospital, where they do burns better than most of the institutions. So that's the part that I remember about the incident and the going to hospital. Just a note on the PPE. We had a PPE talk. I was not at work and I was not dressed properly for work. I did have a jacket on, but it was not the full PPE that was expected. It is something that we also need to note as workers and probably as supervisors, that we should work when we are properly equipped, when we are with the right clothing for the job. Some of the burns, I had third-degree burns. Some of the burns could have been lesser if I was wearing the proper PPE. So it's something that no matter how urgent a job is, we need to, I learned from the accident that we need to be prepared. Yes, I was wearing a pair of jeans, but they are not designed to protect you from flash fires. So some of the clothes got burnt, and I'm lucky to be alive. Yeah, I think that's it about the accident, the day of the accident. And maybe probably I was working with friends and brothers. These people become family when you're working together. They quickly informed the company representative who informed my family. Procedure was taken and things were okay. No one panicked because they tell me that I did not black out. We were actually talking. It's just that some of the responses were not appropriate. I would be answering different questions from the ones being asked, but they were pretty calm when they took me to hospital because they knew that the guy was alive. So that was the unfortunate incident of the 6th of October. I ended up not going home and woke up in the hospital.
Wow, what an experience. So just to touch on that before we talk about the experience in the hospital, so were you in pain? After getting that, what was it, 11 kV line? And I mean, the impacts is the bends. But at that point, were you in pain, in shock? What was taking place? And what were your friends and colleagues saying to you during that period?
Right. The two pictures, I would like to start with the two pictures on the left. If you can see the blue worksuit, that was the jacket that I was referring to. I cannot say I was in pain because I don't remember. And the hospital did well to manage the pain, but I was in shock and I was feeling a lot of heat inside and I wanted water. That's the part on the trip to the hospital. And one of my friends told me that because you were talking to us, we got to hospital, then we were told that you had 7% burns, third-degree burns. No one was worried. They just thought maybe it's just 1 or 2 weeks hospital stay. I'll be back home. But then things start changing. You start producing fluids, your body swells, you lose sensation I started losing sensation on my fingers. But I cannot personally say that I felt pain because it was managed. Yes, the change started creeping slowly into me because I remember 2-3 days into the hospital, I could slowly lose my abilities to move my fingers. Then I sort of woke up from the dream and started realizing that things are changing. But in terms of the pain, the medical personnel at Harare Hospital did their best. I cannot say I lived my life in pain.
Okay. So, you get to hospital, as you say, everyone initially thinks that it's a couple weeks to a month, and then the complications start to take place. What was the experience in hospital? How long did you have to stay there?
Right. People were not very worried. I had a flock of visitors. With bands, they don't want a lot of visitors because they bring infections. So my total stay in Harare Hospital was about 4 months, from October to end of January. I had to change hospital so that I could get specialist treatment to get a flap onto my hand, if you can see on the screen. But I had a lot of support. I never felt a void in my life, thinking that my life has changed so much that I will not be able to adjust. But I would like to mention a little bit about the reaction. like I mentioned, my friends were not very shocked because I was alive, I was good. But my family, after being informed, things start changing. You're expecting someone to come home, you cook something, then you hear 2 hours later from the time you're expecting them that there's been a problem. And no, it's just minor. Can you just come and see? Then my parents stay in Chinoy, so it's about a 2-hour drive to Harare. I can only imagine how it was for them to travel, knowing very well that your son works with dangerous electricity, and a company representative assures you that everything is okay, but deep down you know that things might be very bad. They are happy that I was alive, and we had to go through it all together, and it it did bring a lot of shock, especially for my mother. My father was going to work, things changed because he then had to manage a lot of things, both work and the frequent visits to hospital. And if you remember, things were not so good in around the time. The hospitals couldn't supply all the required things. But I'm grateful for my employer, ZTTGC. Then they did their best to make sure that I was taken care of. I cannot say that my hospital stay was a struggle. As you can see from what I am now and in the pictures, I would definitely need assistance all the time. The picture in the middle, I always laugh about it. It's actually a nursing sister helping me to lose some urine. I totally needed assistance in my life, but not a single day in the almost 6 months stay that I had, total stay, because I stayed 4 months in Harare Hospital and a month and a week in Parirenyatwa for specialist care. There's not a single day that I went hungry. There's not a single day that I did not pass. There's not a single day that I did not have visitors. It's quite a painful experience. I saw people who did not get visitors because I spent my Christmas in hospital. But my friends, they brought a cake, we celebrated, and there was never that void. But however, a hospital stay can be so long. I remember we used to count days with my friends. I used to share with 3 other guys. But then we ended up just knowing that today is a Monday, today is a Wednesday, today is a Sunday, because of the menu, the food menu. Then you'd say, no, today we're eating beans, tomorrow it's cabbage. With beans, you need a lot of protein. Then Sundays, of course. So I believe I was one of the fortunate ones, but my hospital stay and the support from my employer was quite incredible considering the circumstances prevailing at the time.
Wow, what an experience. Just going to hospital alone can be a challenge for many people, let alone staying in for that long. And thanks to the doctors, nurses, and ZETDC, of course, for the support that they gave you. You must have been in excruciating pain and all of that. Can only imagine what you were going through. So what happened after the hospital? 6 months stay. I'm sure there came a point where, the point came where you had to be discharged. What was that process? And going home, how did that transpire? Obviously your family and friends being there. So yeah, how was that? How did that unfold?
Right. To take you back a little bit into the hospital part, I got admitted and I had I had 2 debridements. When you get bent, your body rejects the bent parts. So they had to debride or to scrape off the dead skin from my body so that you can encourage healing. So I had 2 of those. Then about 7 weeks into hospital, I had an amputation. in above elbow amputation. Those who are on video can actually see. I'd gotten to a point that I was losing weight. My body was not responding to medication, the painkillers, and things were just bad, and they had to take it off. It was a source of relief for me to have the amputation. And a very touching part of that story is I knew if we had to get into a discussion with my parents to consent for the amputation, it was going to be a fight. And because everyone is hopeful that, no, let's leave it like that. But considering what was happening, I asked the people, the doctors, to help me sit down. I wasn't able to sit on my own about 7 weeks into hospital. Then I took a pen with my mouth and I signed my consent to operate as an adult. And what I know, what happened the next day, my mother came for a visit. There was no person on the bed. And what happens to a mother, they think you are dead. But they were told, nah, we just had to do an operation. And 5 p.m. visits, the dude has got no hand. But I was feeling a lot better. The heavy burden on me had been taken off. So I think I had a total of 4 in 3 or 4 in a hospital. Mm-hmm. Then I went for a what they call a fasciotomy. If you see all those bandages wrapped around my chest and hand, it's more like they opened up a piece of flesh and put my hand so that they could cover the wound. I had exposed bones on my left hand. So I had to stay for 3 weeks like that without standing up or doing anything. Then they transferred the piece of flesh to the hand to its new home. Then I eventually got discharged out of hospital. The picture on the far right is now after the second operation in Parenyatwa, where the piece of flesh is now onto the hand. As you can see, I was quite skinny. I'd lost some weight. Then on the far left, those red spots, those are the healing patches of the skin grafts that I had. Yeah. So I think I had 1 or 2 grafts in another hospital, but my total number of theater visits were 9, including the ones I did in South Africa to try and do what they call reconstruction, to try and find some movement onto the fingers. So the hospital stay was some experience, I can tell you. And I remember an Indian doctor in South Africa asked me how she said, how do you go for theater as if you go to the toilet? I'm like, she said she was wondering why I wasn't worried. Then I told her that I've accepted my situation, that this has happened. And there is no other way besides to do what I'm supposed to do to live. So after all, I'm not worried because they are not catching me while I'm awake. But a very interesting part, my last surgery, they wanted to encourage some movement into my fingers, right? So, you know, when you watch a lot of movies, you want your parents to be sitting by the side of the bed, looking at you and what. So then I told them, if we're going to do local anesthesia, can I have my mother to be present? Then the doctor told me that you will actually wake up from your ward to go and see your mother next door. The things that we do are not so nice. So we did the last surgery and they ended up putting me to sleep because of the pain that was going on. So it was quite an experience. So we were talking about the post-hospital stay. Going home without another limb is just something else. I remember, you know, the ladies from the neighborhood, they come in their numbers, they will come to see you, what fruits and this and that. So as the days went on, I heard that there was a talk, because I had fallen from a height, there was a talk that I couldn't walk. I was a bit lazy. I would just greet people, talk to them, have some food, and then say, goodbye, I'll see you tomorrow or later. So I remember walking one of these days. I just stood up and walked to take them out. And one of them literally confessed that I thought you couldn't walk. So I realized it was the reason why people were coming to see me. They wanted to confirm the rumors that the guy fell from a height, he can't walk anymore. And I was quite skinny. I'd lost a lot of weight. But it did give me hope that I could make it. You know, there's a lot of power in being underestimated, and then you overcome what people think you can't do. And I did gain a lot of weight. I wasn't moving around as much when I got home because I would regularly go for checkups and therapy. But I've always been a stay-at-home person when I'm not at work. So with a lot of eating, I started gaining a lot of weight. But the home integration was not so bad when I came out of hospital, because I was forever hopeful. And I'd forgotten this part that when I was in hospital, in fact, on the day of the accident, my friends recovered my wallet, my personal belongings, and including my phone. I had 2 phones. These were handed over to my father, correct? But out of stress, he doesn't know where he put them. So we still had the wallet, but he doesn't know where he put my phone. So I've got my brother-in-law who then sent me a phone while I was in hospital. So you know what happens when you are not feeling well, people send you data and a lot of things. So you have a lot of free time. I learned how to use a touch screen using my shorthand. And then I was reading about artificial limbs. I was trying to see how to integrate into a new life, being how I could proceed to do engineering after the accident. So I've always been a hopeful person. So nothing that I would meet at home would extinguish my hopes. So, and also when I would go around, you know, it's a small town. When I would go around in town, people would just look at me. And I then realized the opportunity that even if I want to walk alone, there's not a chance that someone will mug me or do something bad. Because there's always that other person who's looking at you for the first time. And then that person will not let you be mugged. So, you know, there are a lot of things that then come up. You realize, no, man, I can't stand in queues and what. So it becomes a whole changed life. But I've made friends with everyone. And wherever I go, people say, I know you from Chinoy, I know you from the University of Zimbabwe. Oh, yeah, that guy. So the society also accepted me flawlessly, realizing that I was one person who wanted to contribute to my life, not the beggar type. So that's what I can say about the immediate post-hospital stay.
Wow. Yeah, what an experience. I mean, the whole journey you have taken us so far from the beginning, you know, the incident taking place, getting to the hospital, you know, 6 months stay in hospital is no joke. Getting discharged, going back home, the stress that your father had, you know, that's totally understandable. You know, anyone with children would, you know, would know that you jump at anything to protect them. So yeah, no, what a journey. Okay, so then after, you know, at what point did you then, I guess, make the call or to say that, you know, I better reshift my focus? You know, I'm sure the integration back into society had its challenges. You know, perhaps you had prepared for it, but as you know, plans never quite go to plan. But at what point then do you then make a call and say, right, I better shift my focus. You've got a degree that you took afterwards. So that whole transition, that journey, how did it come about? Was there a light bulb moment where you said, yep, time to get on with it?
Yes, I've got a relative, my guru, who is a nurse. She said that she encouraged me and said that she never saw the beggar type of person in me, and I would always read. It's the family that my mother was staying with, my father's brother, with African setups. I was never that person who was hopeless. So I want to talk about the light bulb moment. So these hopes, if you can see the photos in the slide, the artificial limb, the left hand with bandages and a half plaster. My trips to South Africa, that was sometime in May 2014. I get out of hospital early 2013, do a bit of surgeries and therapy, trying to prepare for the trip to South Africa, getting quotations. So I'd like to emphasize on never being at the rock bottom. So these lights now, the light bulb moments came from the reading. Then I was like, okay, so I can actually get a robotic hand. Okay, so I'm looking for a reconstructive surgeon. Then you start seeing people from Zimbabwe on lists of specialists in hospitals. I remember when I got to the medical institution in South Africa, we actually met a nurse who was a sister in charge there. They called her, like, come and see your relatives from Zimbabwe. We've always been popular wherever we go as Zimbabweans. And I remember our quotation, our invoice, I was supposed to stay in a general ward. But then the hospital said, no, as long as we have space in our private wards, you go there. And unless it's fully booked, you can always stay there. And the 2-3 times that I went there, I was treated in a very special way, despite being a foreigner, despite being the unfortunate person that I was. So, talking to friends, the years are going by. That is around 2015. I had a friend whom I knew from high school who had a disability. Then we were talking and she's saying, but why are you staying at home? I'm like, I don't have the money. I'm currently not in employment because my apprenticeship had elapsed. My friends had graduated, but I was at home and I was hopeful, but I didn't know how to put it together. Then she told me that, did you know that the University of Zimbabwe can actually pay for tuition and accommodation fees? But then I asked, but I need assistance. How do I go with my mother? Do I go with my brother? Then another exciting thing, 2013-14 farming season, I had saved up and did a very good crop for maize and had enough, got paid some $3,800. We still had US dollars abundant those days. So with this money in 2015, I bought a car now. So when we were talking about this UZ thing, I said, okay, fine, I'll go to UZ and check. I went to UZ and realized there was a department that took care of issues for people like me. I could apply any degree that I wanted as long as I had the requisite points from advanced level. So my life was ever full of action and hopes and adventures. When in October 2015, I had a friend, Francis. We go into Google, we buy the car, it gets to Beitbridge, we do our paperwork, we go there. I didn't drive from Beitbridge, but when he came and left the car now at my place, it was on a Friday morning. We clean the car, we look at it with my little brother, and I told him, let's start the car. We just want to do a few rounds in the neighborhood. Friday, we do local rounds. The next day, Saturday, we go into town. Sunday, we go to the marketplace where it's congested. And in 2 weeks, I was in Masvingo. So we are talking about 2015 now. So by the time we got to February 2016, when I decided to go to university, I realized from my subjects, the ones that I'd done at A level, I'd done maths, biology, and chemistry. I'd lost precision in my hands. I couldn't do a biology-based or a chemistry-based degree. So I only had to use maths. With a lot of courage, I go to use it, go to meet the dean for engineering. And I asked him, can I fit? He says, I know we haven't had a student like you, but what can we do? We make sure that you graduate. But then I hadn't done physics. They want physics by the department. So we then sat down, we did a bit of career guidance. Then I discovered, no, I could actually check up computers and do computer science. So that's how my journey to go to school started. When I enrolled, the dean for science called me to her office, asked me and assured me that if you need anything, please let us know. We want to make sure that you graduate. But I've always had my targets or my goals being to be competent amongst able-bodied people. So I would write my classroom exercises normal time. I would then write my exams, of course, with a little bit of extra time because of the pressure. But my life has always been full of adventure. So the lights, to answer the light bulb moments, there are quite a lot. They come almost every day. I'm grateful that whenever one light switches off in my life, another quickly switches on, then I'm chasing on another route. So the lights have been popping up here and there. And I've finally followed up the computer science route, and I recently graduated in December last year. We are actually the proud COVID graduates. We graduated online, which is something new, and we are proud about it. So the plan is to mix the computer science, the love for electrical engineering, the education. We're going to put it in a very big bag and pot and cook up and see what we can get.
Excellent. So positivity is the key message out of that. Before we move on, can you just take us through some of the characters in the pictures there?
Okay. From the top left corner, that's my sister and my little brother, the three of us. We'd gone out at Chinoi Caves for an outing. That's quite recent. We do hang out a lot. And the next one, that's me and my mother. That was my first outing after hospital. We went to get some sadza and grilled meat at a local favorite joint. So these are the moments that I was talking about when everyone is looking at you. People are hurt that, how did this happen? Like, this guy his hands are not functional. So I was starting to get used to the people seeing me. My mother was very strong for me, and I remember in hospital I'd requested that I don't want to see people crying in front of me because I was not going to be able to wipe off my tears. So I made a very strong request. No family member ever cried in front of me, although we cried together at some point with my mother. But those were the moments. Then a little bit down there, bottom left corner, until I think it was the 19th of August, 2016, my mother was my helper at home. I was bathed, she would help me go to the toilet, I was being fed. I became the last born. And it also pushed my little brother, I think he was grade 4 or 5 when I got injured. He actually grew up very fast. And in the other picture, that's my father. I think I was about to leave for work at some point, but things changed and put a lot of stress onto the family and his work eventually. But you can also tell we soldiered on. I would always get my breakfast in bed. If you can tell in the last picture, bottom right, that's my mother feeding me. I don't know what that was, but that should have been some groundnuts or something. I would generally stay in bed just after I was discharged, but I was never hopeless. The changes had to come, but we fought them together. I remember my sister was in first year. I got injured in October. She had started her degree just in August. And you know, you have your brother who's working for ZESA, paying for your fees. Because I've always, like I said, I've always been a family guy. Voluntarily, I would assist home. Yes, my father was going to work at the time, but I would always take all my money after my costs home. So I paid for my sister's fees. You know, when a person goes to university, there is always buying new phones, new clothes, and what. So imagine if it was you.
Yes.
You are just 2 months old at university, then your sponsor or your breadwinner runs into an accident. So it was very, very stressful for her. She was not around most of the time when I got discharged, but she was strong. Her grades never went down. We always tried to support her, tell her that we are going to soldier through. And because my company was also very supportive, I did not lose my income. So basically, I was on sick leave for quite a long time, which was quite helpful. And I managed to continue and support her. I always boast around when I'm walking around with her that she's she's a product that I worked hard for. And I'm proud that I have her on my record. So that's it about those pictures.
Well done. No, well done for that. Look, and it's great to see the positivity, considering the challenges that the family was facing at the time. And look, I guess this goes to demonstrate the need for sticking around and supporting each other. So well done to your family and obviously yourself for sticking together. Really, really inspiring. Okay, so moving on. Vani, can you change the slide, please? Now, you know, one thing that we all tend to understand is dollars and cents. And I can only imagine what this experience and event in your life would have cost. You know, take us through what the actual costs has been.
Well, from what I remember very well, like any other company that is concerned about the health and safety of their employees, there's always medical aid that is set up to assist in the event of an accident. So upon discharge, the 4 months at Harare Hospital, the hospital stay, the bandages, everything, the surgeries. I remember the bill wiped out the bill wiped out the credit in my account. That was about 7,900. We were using dollars at that time. Then the 9 surgeries that I had, Harare Hospital, Parenyatwa, Donald Gordon Medical Center in Joburg, the list was $5,000 that I remember. So you can see how expensive it becomes to try and recover from an accident than just preventing it. And when I needed to get attended by specialists at Parenyatwa, right? So a day at Parenyatwa's private ward is $75 without extras, without medication and whatever. So you can imagine the cost to stay 6 weeks in a hospital where you are paying $75. It was difficult then, it's even more difficult now. So the story continues that we should maintain safety. Then I got a bionic limb, one that we saw in the previous slides. The hand itself, this is the part that they call the hand from the ankle. It costed around 15,000, 20,000. the attachments, the batteries, the motors to put up the whole hand and the stay, because we had to go and stay for 2 weeks with my mother. I needed assistance then. The bill was just above $45,000. And, with our African setup or our African minds, people will tell you that, why didn't they give you that money? You could have built a house or bought combis. And you tell people like, but they're trying to assist me to live a better life, you see. There are a lot of mixed feelings with people that I know and people that I would meet in the society. Black people would think, black-minded rather, people would think.
Hi, Ranga, you still there? We might have run into a technical glitch. Let's give him a moment and hopefully he can rejoin us. But hey, just looking at those costs, in front of us, 4 surgeries in Harare Hospital, 8,000 US, 5 specialist surgeries, 25,000, Parenya Atwa 3,150, an artificial limb for $45,000. Then rehabilitation, 2.5 years at $30 per session, and 30 sessions in a year, looking at 2,250. And from what I recall talking to him, that did not include any of the travel and accommodation costs. And of course, there's the additionals that we don't see. Of course, that creep up. You obviously have to go and buy tickets. There's the administration side, all that. And looking at a cost of around $150,000, that's a lot of money. And I don't think many of us actually imagine, incurring those costs. I mean, let alone thinking of how do you cover those costs, particularly in these challenging periods. So, kudos to ZETDC's employer and all the supporters that were around him for carrying that through. And, hopefully you'll join us back. But at some point, he then decided that the artificial limb wasn't working for him because of the maneuverability and the limitations that it had around him. So, getting hurt is not cheap. Let's make sure that we stay safe. And I hope this sheds more light into, what the costs of an accident actually are. And these are the dollars and cents, a language that we all understand. But there's also the indirect costs that we don't see. Vani, can you please change the slide? The inconveniences to family, obviously there's a lifestyle change that has to happen for the involved individual. The family had to adjust. There was someone earning an income and contributing to the household, upkeep of the household. And, fortunately for him, he didn't lose that income. But let's consider in general populace. For many, breadwinner losing that income, all of a sudden the family is left exposed. And I feel for his mother. Obviously, as a parent, I think we touched on this earlier on. You never want to see your children getting hurt. And kudos to her and the dad, brother, and sister for banding together and staying strong and walking through that journey. Vani, may you please change the slide? Yeah, so we touched on the indirect costs of it all, the impact on family, friends, and colleagues. There's also lost opportunities. He's quite an entrepreneurial young man, and I think we'll see more of some of his work, or some of the things that he's working on. But in that period, he's lost some opportunities. He was a trained technician who, all of a sudden, after enduring so much pain and the changes were spoken about, now had to have a career change. All those things, for someone to go at that age, you don't wish it upon anyone. But this was a young man who was going through his apprenticeship with big ambitions and a big future ahead of him. And in a way, has had to take time out in order to deal with the changes in circumstances that had been bestowed on him. So kudos to him. And moving on, Vani. It looks like we don't have Ranga back as yet. So any comments and thoughts from anyone on the audience? The costs involved, the experience, any shared experiences? Anyone? Hello, do we still have an audience?
Yes, Funga, you too. I think the Ngara is very inspirational, and what's happening? This program is notifying that all employers, they must have probably insurance for their employees. Because if you don't have, and something like this happens to your company, really, it's a problem. What will you do? You understand?
Very true, Mr. Nyati. Especially I guess with, for all enterprises. Fortunately, in this case, ZETDC could support you. But let's put a thought to SMEs, even the entrepreneurs and the startup enterprises. There's a lot of exposure, getting hurt at work could be an event that can happen even on the road. Traveling on business, you have an accident, situation can really change. So, it's a good point that you raised that, insurance is something that we really need to think about. And I think on one of the future webinar series, insurance covering the safety and health aspect is something that we will touch on, see if we can get a guest on that. But very good point. Thanks for that, Mr. Nyati. Ranga, are you back? Hello, Ranga, is that you? I see connected back.
Yes, we are having problems with our power.
Normal challenges.
Yes, thank you for carrying on.
No, that's okay. Welcome back. Good to have you back. We just touched on the costs, an estimated dollar figure of $150,000. And I'd also touched on the indirect costs, obviously the need for adjustment in life, not just for you, but for everyone. We hadn't started on the turnaround, and I can see in the picture, fighting for climate action. I'll let you take over, Ranga.
Yes, and especially the indirect ones. For a very long time, I had to move around with someone. Even I can't cook for myself. I can't, I can't iron my clothes. I can't hold hot things on my own. It's something that's on my to-do list to learn, so that eventually when I get an opportunity, maybe elsewhere, outside the country, I don't have to drag along people on the cost way over 150,000.
Because imagine after every surgery, they will tell you that you need 3 months to heal a wound. And I would go for therapy every day for 5 days a week, book into a lodge because we couldn't travel from Chinhoyi to Harare every day. Those are all costs. And it is always better to just prevent the accident than to try and panel beat afterwards. In terms of the changes, they are unavoidable. Like what Teach said earlier on, that if worst comes to the worst, you die. But most electrical accidents leave you crippled and unable to move. Remember, surrender whatever they were doing in their life to be your hands, to be your feet. So the indirect costs are way more and long lasting than the monetary costs. Imagine it's 8 years now and I still have to stay with someone. Let's look at rehab for the small companies. Rehab generally costs $30 and medical aid offers you 30 sessions per year. And if you are doing that every day, you just need 1 month to finish your allocation. The rest you'll be paying cash. So these direct costs, I was fortunate that there was someone, there was a system, there was insurance for me. But it's really difficult if you were going to be at a small construction site, you fall from a height, that would just be the end. In terms of mobility, it was very difficult for me to move around. It's what inspired me to do the maize project and buy a car. But a small in 2015 to help me move around, brought me to just get where I want. It's an ordinary car, it's an ordinary automatic vehicle, but it suits my situation. And talking about the change in career, I can say computer science, which was computer studies back then in high school, it was a love that I had shelved for eating that I actually liked doing. And conveniently, the maths that you do in computer science and in engineering are closely related to each other. So, and computer science is versatile. You can actually move around and apply it wherever you want. If I want to join biomedical engineering, I can with computer science. So the fun hasn't gone away. I'm not just doing computer science for the sake of getting some food on the table. I can actually apply it where I want. And it was unfortunate. I was very fortunate that I can still do something. There's a very sad situation where you become redundant after an accident, especially those guys you hear NASA refers to them, well, not NASA as such, but you become a paraplegic, you become a cabbage, you become unable to do anything. That's the worst situation. In my experience with NASA, on that note, it was flawless. I never had challenges from NASA. And the officers in Chinhoyi, they would always encourage me that as NASA, we don't want to
I guess some technical glitches along
take
the
care
way.
of you because it encourage you to live. Can I go to work? If I was just curious. Then they told me, no, we actually want you to go to work to take care of yourself, to live a better life. If you get a place for education, let's do it. So my NASA experience has been nothing short of the best that I could see them doing. I've not had challenges. And I also attended a skills course in Bulawayo. I think it was in January 2019. And I can make detergents. Who then knew that COVID-19 was going to come? It's just me doing it slowly, but I know how to make detergents and I can make a living out of it. It's an overwhelming life for me because I have a lot of things to do. But my personal detergents, I don't buy, which is a good thing that I got from NASA. I make and sell to my community. I've managed to saturate my market. It's just me being lazy to expand that market, but NASA has been very good to me. So these costs, even NASA, to them it's a cost. They have a lot of business to do, and if we can prevent accidents, the better for everyone.
Very strong point there, Ranga. And yes, NASA has got a rehabilitation center out in Blawayo, a state-of-the-art, only one in the country. It would be great if there was more, but obviously there's constraints. But yeah, we hear a lot of good things. And on our side, thank you, NASA, for supporting us. We've really appreciate their support. So back to you, Ranga. So, obviously, there comes a point where, these costs are things that you have to live with. And you've overcome a lot, both from the dollars and the indirect side. And there's great stuff that you're also doing. Vani, can you change the slide, please? So, I know you do computers, servicing computers and the like, but you've got a lot of other activities that you do. And there's one of them, Climate Action Now. You mind taking us through that?
Yes, students to Vic Falls. That was just before we went into lockdown in 2020. We were doing a cleanup campaign and doing climate action, a campaign for climate action. That was a boot camp for artificial intelligence, of course, following my passion for computers. That was me active in church as a youth leader, helping up the youth to get some direction. Sharing the little that was on we had made a bus stop in Chegu today. We're on our way to Midland State University. The things that I do, I've realized that one day at a time, if I share my story, it might change someone. The idea is not to scare people away from joining the electricity industry. We have had very successful careers of people who did not injure anyone, who did not get injured themselves. The idea is to inspire. If you do have less at your disposal, you can still achieve more. And not easy to come by. I soldiered on. I do my things slower. I wake up earlier because I bath longer than Fungai, who just does 5 minutes and rushes into town. Maybe I need 20 or 25 minutes. So I do go through a lot more. I have to leave earlier. I just don't dress. I do it slowly, put my belt, all those kinds of things. Yes, I do need assistance. But if I happen to be alone, life improves. So to talk about what I'm doing to share these stories, I started jogging or running, whatever we may call it, for safety. I stay in Belvedere South, and I'll obviously benefit from the exercise. But as you interact with people driving early to work around 5 to 6, they look at you first day, they don't hoot. They look at you the second day, maybe they say hi. The day they hoot, the next day they stop and they talk to you and like, what happened to you? Then you start sharing your story. This is how I'm sharing my story with people, that yes, things happen. Don't be careful. I remember on one of my trips, we shared some space with a family that had just moved to Joburg. And one of the young boys in the family was so excited with the bionic hand that he had to ask me, can I get my own hand when I grow up? And I said, no, my man, you actually good with what you have. You don't need a bionic hand. So you then take a chance to tell the child not to play with electricity. Now, most electricians, so like in the current slide, that's my father, my mother, and me at our plot. That's where the car grew out of. And far right, that's me at my current workplace. Fortunately, I'm actually working for ZESA and at their training center, helping up and being positive, like what you're saying, being productive. That's the ceremony we had. We had a small trip to church when the conditions were relaxed sometime last year. We had time to celebrate our success despite the COVID-19 challenge. So to answer your question on activities, I've realized with traveling around that education is important, and education unlocks the mind. I was given an opportunity by the University of Zimbabwe to learn and better my life, because the more you learn, the lesser the disability becomes relevant. So I've realized as I drive around, as I walk around, that there are children who are disabled, who are hopeless. The disability comes from anywhere. We have about 900,000 to 1.4 million people who live with some form of disability. And for those youths who are passionate about education, I've talked to a few friends I met along the way and discover their opportunities. Like what you're seeing in the slide, I'm also quite active in youth activities for sustainable development goals. That's where I actually picked up my passion for the SDG 4 that talks about quality education, because I believe that if the mind is educated, it gets unlocked. So I've learned that my interactions with people at such places, such levels, they inspire a person to know that their problems are not problems. There are people with real problems, but who still carry on. And lastly, the more we share these stories, I'm not the only person who has quite a story, but we plan to put up a group of people who can share these stories and help people, because we have the employee, how you look at accidents as an employee. We have the supervisor, you, who is going to be responsible for prematurely terminating someone's life. Then the employer themselves, how you should look at developing a quality health and safety management system to prevent such things. Who amongst us has 100,000 to try and save a person? These are the monies we actually need to improve our companies. So the better we prevent life, the better we progress. So we can say that we are still, but we'll get there.
Excellent. Vani, can you please change the slides, please? Can you go forward? Thank you. So the Run for Safety program, is that started? Have you got others to run with us yet? Do you have a team?
Yes, I do have colleagues that I run with, but I could say they are able-bodied. They are normal people. That's my roommate from university in the far left picture. So he's also acting as the cameraman, of course. And we are in a small group from Belvedere for people who run, and we keep inspiring each other, waking each other up. And in the far right picture, I like that picture because that was my first attempt from a small height. I had fractures. I had a fracture on my left leg, and I gained weight, and a lot of things were happening. So that was my first attempt to just jump from that. I think it's just about 30 centimeters. And I felt very successful on the day. So I'm sure the idea has always been there. And the reason for running for safety is to preach the gospel and to take safety to the people the frameworks are there. NASA is there for us. The Standards Association of Zimbabwe is there for us. People who champion safety, like Fanira Safety, is there for us. But we now need to take it at a personal level.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
That
you know, and
we run for safety at a personal level, yes.
And the thing is, safety is beyond at work. You know, at home, on the road, you know, all our lives revolve around taking risk and being, exposed to hazards. So, you know, that safety conversation needs to go beyond the workplace. And, you know, for me, I actually think it's something that needs to be as part of the curriculum. You know, I remember chatting to someone who was saying, you grow up all your life through ECD, primary school, climbing trees and being told, if you fall, you get hurt. And you go through high school, university, and then you get to work and someone tells you to put on gloves because you might get pricked if you go through the thorn bush or something like that. So it's a conversation that totally needs to start early. You know, safety speakers, you know, I can see you there giving a presentation and also being interviewed. So how is this one going to work, Ranga?
Yes. Yes. Do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so as you can see, I've in the pictures there, the one in the far right, that was a presentation from college. We're doing something in class. It's something that I want to encourage people who run into problems. I've never stayed in the back seat because I was different. I would take up my space. I would do what other people would do, and I would never get marks for free simply because I've got challenges. So on the slide on to the left, that's that credit is from ZTN Studios. We had attended a talk on youth in science. That was a feedback from the Victoria Falls trip. So I would love to encourage people to take up these opportunities, because having run into an accident doesn't mean you cannot live a normal life. And normal, then the normalcy is determined by you. I've always told people that I have normal dreams, I have normal aspirations, and there are things that I reject because I don't want them. I will not take them because I have lesser abilities. So it's just a take-home point that even if it happens to you, you still lead a very normal life. As normal as you want it to be, you can get it.
That's really encouraging and inspiring. You know, it's all about the mindset. Well done for sharing your story. And you did touch on this, the education for all aspect with disabled children in the rural areas.
Yes. Like in my case, my mother left out a lot of things that she was doing to take care of me. And we, from the money, like from the maize project, before I bought 18, started a chicken project for her so that we could do that, what do you call it, diversional therapy, so that we could take her mind off the problems. We have a lot of women, a lot of mothers who give up their life to take care of their, be it spouses, be it children, who have run into problems. You, like what you're saying, that safety goes beyond work. You can be a very safe worker at work, then get into those mshikashikas, and then you get injured. You still become a burden to your family because you chose the wrong type of transport to get home.
Very true.
So these women need empowerment. The children to school. We empower the mothers or the carers to be able to take care of those children without us having to go there all the time. Like the skills that I have, I've always been willing to share what I know with people. People ask me, how did you buy your car? How do you drive around? I always share my story. I always share what I can actually do for people to get empowered. So it is my belief that even as we adopt the new curriculum, the Education 5.0, which talks about a lot of innovation and industry, as we don't just implement without safety, we might actually be running into more problems than solutions. So as we energize the little people's brains to be innovative, dream that we talk about class of grade ones. Yes, they will cram the paragraph, but they should know that I am not an engineer. I'm not yet an electrician. I will not fix the iron until I'm taught to do so. If they know that, if they are told by their teacher at school, they'll get home and then they'll tell them, no, I'm not going to do that. My teacher told me not to fix the iron until I'm taught to do so. So it's something that we need as a country. And we are highly educated, we can actually adopt such programs. So I believe education for all is important so that we can win this fight.
Now, those are very, it will certainly make a difference. And, the conversations have to start now. It would have been nice if they started earlier, but, that's done. So now going forward, we certainly should encourage each other and, roping in, and not just being the workplace as we touched on before, but us as a community. I think that safety and health conversation needs to be shared. You look at the situation with cholera, or even at the moment, this COVID thing, there's the realities of life, of our societies and infrastructure that we have, but it doesn't stop the conversation happening. Now, I understand you're also writing a book.
Yes, it's work in progress. At some point in my visits, in my hospital visits in South Africa, I met a family with whom I shared the ward. So the mother who was visiting here, her husband, she's a clinical scientist. Wherever I go, I've become a son to many people because of my story and how I live my life. So she's one of my mothers. So she doesn't call herself a writer, but I call her my writer. So we interact and we work together. We are putting up a story that we hopefully are going to use to inspire people. It's just about my experience, like what we have tried to do in this session, but people are going to get more details on what happened, the ups and downs, the hopes and the frustrations. But once it's done, you definitely get a copy, and we hope to keep working together and to share this story. One life saved is good enough. And I believe I'm not disabled. I've never seen myself as a person who can't. I just know I do my things differently. And I would love to drive you one of the days if possible. If you fall asleep, then you know that it's okay. That's one of my mentors who told me when I was driving, that if a person can fall asleep when you're driving, then it means you're doing the correct things. So we have been affected by COVID to write the book rather. So we hope to pick up, because some of the parts you actually need to be staying with your writer so that they get the feel of what's happening. But thank you very much for the opportunity. I have my happy moments. Like if you stay with my guys on the lawn there, we do have our crazy and happy moments. I live a very normal life, and I'm grateful to be part of such an initiative to spread the safety gospel. We can it's a painful fact that disabilities and accidents prevail more in poor. Because you go to this, you realize that they'll look at you in a way shocked at how could this have happened when we have so good systems. So I believe in Zimbabwe. I believe in NASA being able to help us. I believe in all the other projects that are and initiatives like Fanira Safety to be able to come up together, and the totality of our efforts being able to take us there. We have the 2030 agenda for a middle class economy. We cannot achieve that if we have unsafe working practices. So this initiative is actually an integral part in the achievement of such visions, because we can't lose a life and we cannot afford to. But thank you very much for the time.
Wow. Ranga, thank you so much for coming. I'm very satisfied with this. Being our first webinar, like I mentioned before, we'd planned all these things, and in the 3 weeks that we met, you've also had an impact on myself, so I really appreciate that. We going to be part of those initiatives as we discussed. We look forward to reading that book, and I look forward to that drive around. Keep up the good work. And the safety speakers, this is something that I think, corporates will even benefit for inviting you and the other guys that are going to get involved in it to go around giving real life experiences. You speak so well, so you've made my job as a host really, really easy. So thank you for that. But for many people, it's a difficult thing to share that experience. Kudos to you, kudos to your family. And I hope that, we'll continue to work together and we'll have you again on the webinar series. Now, for
Thank you very
everyone
much.
who shared Ranga's. Excellent. Thank you, Ranga. So we've got Ranga's details on the slide. We're going to share the presentations. Get in touch with him. He's happy to share his experience, and it's very, very impactful. So once again, thanks, Ranga. Really, really appreciate and look forward to working together in the future. Excellent. Thank you. Before we go, any comments, additions? Any comments or additions for Ranga? Open to the audience.
Yes.
Mr. Pitson.
Yeah. Ranga, oh my God, you have gone through a hard journey, my brother, but very inspirational. What I needed to know, you mentioned that after you were electrified, you asked water. They say no there, they say no at the hospital. What was going to be the effect of water when you were in a hospital? That is my first question to you. And the second question is that because you have experience with this, you work for ZESA and all that stuff. Let's say for somebody it happens in the stove at home. Maybe your wife is cooking, there is electrified. What you have to do, but I have that belief, or it was said somehow, somewhere, that if you get a dried wood and push that person who's electrified away from, can be relieved at that moment. Okay, let's then go to when I understand in your case, your journey was helped by your employer. Your journey was helped by NESA and those friends. Let's say somebody who's not employed, then it happens to the person. Really, it will be hard.
Yes, I understand. To answer your first question, the water part was an incident on the way to the hospital. and the medical emergency team was not willing to give me water because they were not sure of the extent of the damage. If you remember, Tish earlier on, he talked about electricity cooking organs. So you are not really sure what has happened inside. So they said, we can only give you something when we get to the doctors. And to move on to the support that I had from the cases that I have seen or heard along the way, ZESA does its best to support in the event of an accident, whether you're an employee or not. They do their best. We have a very positive working culture. We have a very positive health and safety culture. Like any other company, we are operating under very difficult conditions, which have been worsened by COVID, talking about financial constraints. But the cases that I've come across have been handled well. Yes, people, not everyone will be assisted equally. Like what I said in the hospital stay, that I was a fortunate guy. You do hear people complaining that nurses are rude and what, but I did not get such treatment. And the people that I've seen who are not part of our system have also been assisted. It's unfortunate if there have been any problems here and there. But if you happen to interact with ZESA right now, we have a very positive health and safety culture that reacts and tries to prevent such accidents.
Thank you for that. Just to add on, Mr. Nyati, one of the things, particularly in the home, I always encourage people to have, first aid kits, to do risk assessments about the home. Ensure you don't have any exposed wires. There's no shorts. And it's good practice to get an electrician to just do a general inspection once in a while, because when these things do happen, for most people in community, they don't know about these hazards. And in the event that, the unfortunate happens, first immediate point of call, contact emergency services. Turn off the power, because, as long as the power is on, the risk is still there. And I think it was touched on during the toolbox talk. If you see someone getting electrocuted, the natural thing is to run and help. Now, if you go and touch that person, that current is going to transfer from their body and also flow through your body into the ground. So both of you will get zapped in the process. But the key things is regular inspections by an electrician. If someone gets injured or gets burns, they say wrap in clean clothes, keep them warm. Don't use things like blankets because they have fibers. But some of this, you need to get more information on it. But the key thing is risk assessment, inspections, and because you just never know when it can happen. Any other comments? I can see there's a microphone that's come on. Mr. Joseni. Sorry, Joseni? Hello?
Hello?
Hello, yes. Did you want to say something?
No, sorry. I think it's a wrong click.
Okay, no, that's okay. Good to have you on the webinar. Any other comments, additions, feedback?
Yeah, thanks, host. I think this is very inspirational. We've really learned a lot, about what happens, how accidents can happen and the consequences, and how you can actually live through that experience and actually come out a better person overall. I think that's a very good webinar that we had with Ranga. Thanks, Ranga. Thanks, Fanira.
Excellent. Thank you for that feedback, Elton. Makanaka, I see you got a hand up. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, host. Thank you very much. And many thanks to Ranga as well. It's really a very inspirational and powerful message that is put across. I just want to thank him for the 3 things that I would like to say I am taking home. One, which is to celebrate the small successes, the small victories, the small positives that you see, and that you can actually measure. And number 2, kudos to him for staying positive, even though it was difficult, even though there were many challenges, number of operations, but the positivity was really shining through, and his strong willpower as well. And the most remarkable one for me was just his mental game, the mental strength, and even just the ability to push yourself through the process, and pushing yourself even to achieving the many accolades that you were alluding to. So thank you very much for sharing with us your journey. Thank you, host. Over to you.
Thank you, Makanaka. Any other comments, feedback, questions?
For me, it's just a comment, Ranga. This has been so inspiring. Thank you so much. And what I like about it is in all things you've remained positive, which is good. And I think the first step in such a situation, like you said, is to accept that this is your situation. Then you're able to recover from it and also be able to carry on with your life. So thank you so much for sharing this experience. I wish you could share it with the whole world. I know you'll inspire a lot of people. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fungai. That's my Sazita over there, another Fungai. Excellent. Thanks for that feedback. Any more comments, feedback? The floor is yours, guys. All right. If there isn't any more, thanks a lot, Ranga. Really, really inspiring. Looking forward to working with you. As has been mentioned by Fungai, that, if you take this story to the world and what you're doing, you actually have a great impact on a lot of people. I can see someone's mic is on. Tariro.
Yes, thank you very much. I just want to thank Ranga for the session and also you for organizing this session. It's the first of its kind where we actually getting to go through the post-accident information. Thank you, Ranga, for this time. And I also want to applaud
thank you very much.
The stakeholders who were involved. I also want to thank the stakeholders who were involved, who actually assisted Ranga in this mishap, because I'm sure they assisted, and that is why we can see Ranga testifying. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Thank you very much
for that, Tari. Go ahead, Ranga.
Okay, I wanted to thank everyone for attending the session, and I hope we can take this to the world together. It is still a COVID crisis. I read something today that said the lockdown has been eased, but the pandemic has not been erased. So we still need to mask up, we still need to sanitize and maintain our social distance. For Mr. Nyati there, he talked about the log. Yes, if you have the technical know-how, and if you can identify, like what Mr. Fungai said, if you can identify the source of the electricity and push the person with the log, it will work. But half the time, you realize that, especially as ZESA employees, you'll be working in farms, and the person who gets there first is just an ordinary person heading cattle. that person will usually not be able to assist you because you may actually be lying on top of an energized cable. So, like what we've been talking about earlier on, the idea is to always have competent people close by, especially in industry setups where you manage shifts and people are working in an enclosed area. There should always be someone. Even with our work, like I'm no longer doing electrical work, but I know that you don't go to work without someone without someone who knows first aid. There should always be someone who can attend to a person. But thank you very much for the time. I'll make sure that you all get copies of the book when it finally comes out. Thank you for the support. We can only do it with your support. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Ranga. I guess, we've come to the end of our webinar. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank a few people. Thanks to... Hello? I'd like to thank TL1 Center for Learning, our partner, as well as NASA for supporting us with this. Thanks to our star guest Ranga and the other presenters that we had in Teach and Chenge. And most of all, thank you to the audience. It really means a lot. A lot of work has gone into this with the team here in getting us started. You're never sure whether you'll get it right or wrong. So really appreciate you guys attending and listening. Please give us your feedback via the different platforms that we have. And we hope to do this more and more. Our next session will be on the 19th of March, 2021. Hopefully, as we get bigger, they'll be weekly. But for now, I think we can absorb the 2-week breaks. So at this point, thank you, everyone. If there's anyone I've left out, thanks. And, the floor is open to everyone. Feel free to make comments. We will leave the meeting open for another 10 minutes. Feel free to share experiences, give feedback, inspire, or whatever you want. As our guest, there's always time for you. So for the next 10 minutes, free for flow. I think if we're meeting in person at a conference, there's always that time to mingle. So I don't know how we mingle on Zoom, but guys, go for it, whether you're using the chat or mics, I don't know. Before we go, can we all turn on our cameras and we take a photo of this moment? Thank you.